What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of High Mythology, the show where we get higher than elephant testicles and tell you guys silly stories from mythology and folklore.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah. Tonight, we will be bringing you a bunch of Indian folk tales.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
The country.
The country. Yeah. The country of India. We got a grip. We got what, eight stories to get through tonight? Yeah, 8.
I think folktales, right?
Yeah,
they're all folkies.
All folky tales.
Different regions, all over the place.
All over the place. We're bouncing around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't get a snippety at me when it's a different person.
Oh, I'm getting snippy.
I'm like, that was a name in South India. We're doing the West
We're
India.
doing West India on this one.
Doing Central.
Central. We're doing just the tip.
Northwest.
Just the tip.
Up there in that corner next to Burma.
Up there.
Wiggle it around.
Wiggle it around. Spin it in a circle. Helicopter it. Whatever you got to do.
Well, I guess
Sorry, I got caught off guard. Yeah. All right, back to India. So without further ado, Kimbo, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Thank you. Would you like to introduce?
Oh, yeah, I got to introduce it. So without further ado, Dusty, why don't you go ahead and take it away? Okay, other Dusty, I will.
Wow.
Story number 1 is called Tell It to the Walls, from the region of Tamil on the southern tip of India, just the tip.
The east.
Southeast.
It's like a little sliver off to the left side. It's like a little other region.
Yeah.
Looks like Chile.
Chili. The food or the country?
The country.
The country. It looks like a bowl of chili.
All right. A poor widow lived with her 2 sons and 2 daughters-in-law. All 4 of them scolded and ill-treated her all day. She had no one to whom she could turn to tell all her woes, and she kept all her woes to herself. And she grew fatter and fatter.
She's all full of woes.
Her sons and daughters-in-law now found that a matter of ridicule. They mocked her for growing fatter by the day and asked her to eat less.
Eat less woes.
Oh, wow.
You're all full of woes.
One day, when everyone in the house had gone out somewhere, she wandered away from the home in sheer misery and found herself walking outside of town. There she saw a deserted old house. It was in ruins and had no roof. She went in and suddenly felt lonelier than more miserable than ever. She found she couldn't bear to keep her miseries to herself any longer. She had to tell someone. So she told all of her tales of grievances against her first son to the walls in front of her. And as she finished, the walls collapsed under the weight of her woes.
There's so much woes.
And crushed to the ground in a heap. Her body grew lighter as well. Then she turned to the second wall and told her grievances against her first son's wife. Down came that wall, and she grew lighter still. And she brought down the third wall with her tales of her second son.
She's just shitting. She's just diarrhea-ing woes all over this house.
This is explosive, guys. Walls are coming down.
Just let me spray some woes at this wall.
That's what they're calling it. I mean, I won't call taking a deuce of my woes.
My woe. I got to go drop off some woes. Too full of woes right now. About to have a woe out.
And the remaining fourth wall, too, with her complaints against her second daughter-in-law.
She broke the fourth wall.
And the fourth dimension.
Yeah, she looked at the camera and said something.
Real.
There's a lot of woes, right? The fourth wall just collapsed.
Standing in the ruins with bricks and rubbles all around her, she felt lighter in mood and lighter in body as well. She looked at herself and she found she had actually lost all the weight she had gained from her wretchedness. Then she went home.
Then she went home.
The end.
That's the end of the story. Oh my God, Mom, what happened? Did you get surgery? No, I just shat out like 35 gallons of woe.
Just brought down the whole building.
Brought down the whole building. I even broke the fourth wall.
Right. And the fourth dimension. I looked
and the
right
fourth
at
dimension,
that camera.
yeah. I shit so hard it broke space-time.
It ripped a hole in space.
It ripped a hole in space-time. Oh, God. We've all been there before.
I don't think so.
I don't think, like, was my deuce so heavy I just created a singularity?
When you can create a masterpiece with it, you have shit too much.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to story number 2. Sona and Rupa.
Sona
and Rupa from Malwi, West Central India.
This is the one done in the Hindi dialect. Okay.
Okay.
So relax.
Okay, so okay.
Now there's 2 versions of this in this area.
Yeah. Haters gonna hate.
One in the Muslim, one in the Hindi. Calm down.
Calm down.
One evening, a prince was returning home on his black mare after a hunt and took the mare to drink from the stream. As he watched it drink, he saw, along with his own and his mare's reflection, several strands of gold and silver hair floating on the water.
Ew.
Obviously, lovely women with hair of gold and hair of silver had bathed somewhere nearby, upstream perhaps. He bent down and picked up the hair. The more he looked at it, the more he thought of the beauty of the women with such hair and was infatuated with the images in his head. He tucked the hair into the folds of his turban, mounted his mare, and went home to his palace.
That's weird, bro. That
Jerked
whole
one
situation is weird. Yeah. Hold on, just let me smell this river hair. I'm going to take a drink of this river water, too, just in case they were bathing in it.
Gargle of it.
Yeah.
It was time for dinner, but the prince did not appear. Everyone looked for him, but he was nowhere to be found.
Don't bother me when I'm in my room.
The queen mother sent servants into every room and every corner. One of the servant women went into the storeroom to fetch some sugar. The prince was laying there, face down on the floor. She was about to cry out when the prince said to her,
That's a weird way to beat yourself. Just face down. Buried in the ground, beating my meat in the storeroom. What's so weird about this? It's where we keep our food? Don't tell anyone or you'll die.
But as they say, a woman and the wind cannot hold a secret. She whispered it to the queen.
As they say, never trust a woman. Yeah.
I thought that's funny. Okay, sorry. The queen came to the storeroom loudly, scolding her servants.
Why haven't you swept this place, you lazy bones?
Then, as if her eyes had just lighted on the prince on the floor, she cried out,
Oh no, look who's here. Oh son, what's the matter? Why are you lying in the dust? What has made you so miserable? If anyone has insulted you, I'll have their tongue cut out. Oh, she's hardcore.
She is.
If anyone has raised their hand against you, I'll have that hand chopped off and made into a funny little necklace that you can wear around town. It'll be a good story to tell your friends.
And your kids.
And your kids. Tell me what's troubling you and get up, for God's sake. Come on.
The prince sat up, took out the gold and silver hair from his turban, and holding it up to the queen, said,
My God, that is an erection. I want to marry the girls who have such gold and silver for hair.
The queen says.
Oh, that's nothing. We'll find those hussies wherever they are.
The prince says.
But I must have just those girls whose hair matches this. I already drank their bath water.
The queen says.
Oh, surely, my son, surely. You'll have them. Don't worry.
But she felt dizzy and stumbled as she walked out of the storeroom. Messengers were dispatched all over the capital, and the town crier called out in the streets that all the young women of the city should walk next morning in the palace yard with their heads uncovered.
We're calling out for a hoe walk. We need a hoe walk.
Next morning, there is a long parade of women before the palace. The prince watched them for hours, but he couldn't see any women whose hairs matched what he had in his hand. Suddenly, his eyes fell upon 2 girls with hair of gold and hair of silver, sitting in the courtyard of the women's quarters of the palace. He called out to his mother, the queen, and pointed them out to her. The queen was stunned, but for somehow found the words to say.
Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, this is getting nasty already. They're your sisters, Sonia and Rupa. Your two fucking sisters, you weirdo.
The prince's face fell, but
I
he
can't
wouldn't
believe
give
you
up
drank
his
the
wish.
bathwater.
He said,
Oh, marry them, I must. Whoever they are. If I can't, I'll leave this country and I'll go somewhere else. I'll go backpacking through Europe.
the king came down and tried to talk him out of it. Relatives, elders, and ministers talked to him, and the queen begged him with folded hands to change his mind.
You're being really weird right now. You need to cut it the fuck out.
But the prince wanted what he wanted. Nasty. So they arranged for the weddings. A grand pavilion was raised on green bamboo poles with a vast canopy of silks and canvas. Canvas.
Canvases.
The news traveled from ear to mouth and from mouth to ear until it reached
From mouth to ass. From ass to mouth.
until it reached Sona and Rupa. They were speechless with horror. Their faces went dark and their eyes filled with tears. Now, on the banks of the river where they bathed, grew a saddlewood tree that the two princesses had watered and tended since they were small. It had grown with them, and it was now tall and full grown. On the wedding day, Sona and Rupa climbed the saddlewood tree and hid in its branches. As time for the rites grew near, the palace servants looked for them and found them sitting on the high branch.
No, we're not coming down.
The servants begged them to get down, but they wouldn't. The king himself came to the tree and said,
Come down, my daughter, Sonia and Rupa. Rupa, the wedding hour has come.
but Sona
Come
and
marry your
Rupa
weird
said,
brother.
Oh, father, we call you father. How can we call you father-in-law? Higher, higher, oh saddlewood tree. And the tree grew taller and took them higher. The whole family gathered there and called them, but they wouldn't come down.
No.
With each call, the tree grew taller and took them higher still. Finally, the prince himself came there and called out,
Oh, come down. Come down, my sister, Sonia and Rupa. I want to, marry you and stuff.
But they replied, Oh, brother, we call you brother. How can we call you husband now? Higher, higher still, oh saddle tree.
Let's get the fuck out of this weird incestuous situation.
All at once, clouds gathered and skies thundered, and the tree suddenly split open and took them inside. Before the family's eyes, Sona and Rupa vanished deep within the tree. The end.
And the tree ate them. That's the end. Did they have to marry their brother? No, but the tree ate them. So
I would rather die than to marry my brother. Yeah. That's fucking I think true for many people.
Yeah, that's a very, very weird dude. And I don't know why they just kept giving in to his wishes like that.
At once I'd be like, good, fucking leave the country. I'll fucking... Yeah.
No, that would be my response to some other, well, I want it anyway. Well, I just realized I didn't beat you enough when you're growing up, so I'm going to start doing that now.
Yeah.
And we'll figure that out after this beating.
Yeah, for real. We got real rapey there. Sorry, guys.
Oh. On to story number 3. Gobel Bahar, the star counter, from the region of Bengali in East India.
Yes.
Is Bengali its own country? I can't remember.
It's a city and a fucking region.
Region, yeah. I don't know. I don't know enough about geography to talk.
It's got a map in this book.
It's got a map. There's a map. Awesome, yeah. Go ahead.
I guess you don't have to
take it away, Kimbo. Well, I mean, they can't see it anyway.
We'll pop up a map. One day, the Nawab, sent word to the Mahara. Hang on, I got this. Krishna Chandra. It's like 15 letters here. Give me a break. That he wanted the whole earth measured from side to side and from end to end, and that he would greatly appreciate it if the Maharaj would take it upon himself to count the stars in the sky as well. The Maharaj was astonished and said,
"Oh, hey there. I don't want to seem uncooperative or anything there, but you have commanded me to do something that's near impossible."
The Nawab said,
"But do it, you will."
So the Maharaj fell into a brown study and brooded over how he might fulfill the demands of the Nawab. It was not long before Gopal Bahar passed by, and seeing the Maharaj in such a state of despair, he tugged gently at the ends of his mustache and said,
"What is this I see? If you have troubles, you need only to tell your Gopal, and we will be well."
The king was not so easily consoled. He said,
"No, Gopal." I forgot that. No there, Gopal. This is a problem not even you can solve. The Nawab has commanded me there to measure the earth from side to side and from end to end there. And as if that were not enough, he also wants me to count all the stars in the sky up, too.
The Gopal was not dismayed. He said,
"Ooh, Maharaja, nothing could be easier. Appoint me your official earth measurer and star counter. Set your mind to rest. And when I am through, I shall go to the Nawab with the results. Only one favor I ask. Ask the Nawab for 1 year to finish the job and 1,000,000 rupees for operating expenses in 1 year's time. I'll bring him the results."
The Maharaj was greatly pleased and relieved, since if the job were not done, it would be Gopal's head that would come off and not his own. He did as Gopal had asked, and Gopal passed a very pleasant year, spending the 1,000,000 rupees on the most delightful women and the most delicious food in the kingdom.
Yeah. What did you use most of the budget for? Horse and cocaine.
As well as on palaces and elephants and jewels and other things of that type. He spent, in fact, such a pleasant year that at the end he went to the Maharaj again, jingling his 4 nickel coins and 2 coppers that remained of the 1,000,000 rupees, and assuming a worried frown, said,
"Maharaja, the task is more difficult than I anticipated. I've made an excellent start. The results are promising, but I'm going to need another year's time. And incidentally, another 1,000,000 rupees for operating expenses only."
That's exactly what it says. That's the funniest shit to me. The Maharaj reluctantly petitioned the Nawab, and the Nawab reluctantly granted the extra year and the second 1,000,000 rupees. The Gopal passed his year even more pleasantly than the first, since now he had some experience in these matters. Exactly 1 year later, to the hour, Gopal came dragging himself up the road to the Nawab's palace, and with him were 15 bullock carts crammed and creaking with the finest thread, tangled and jumbled and matted and flattened down, and 5 very fat woolly sheep.
Oh, I thought they were going to say women.
5 very fat woolly women.
Woolly women. They were just hairy ladies everywhere. One of them had a neck beard.
He led this odd procession through the gates of the palace and into the court of the Nawab, made a deep and graceful bow, and said,
"Ooh, Your Excellency, it has been done as you ordered. I have measured the earth from end to end and from side to side, and I have counted all the stars in the sky."
The Nawab says,
"Oh, excellent. And now give me the figures, the exact figures."
The Gopal says,
"Figures, Majesty. Figures were not in the agreement. I've done as you commanded. The earth is as wide as the thread. In the first 7 bullock carts." is long. And is as long as the thread. The other 8 is long. There are, furthermore, just as many stars in the sky as there are hairs on the five really bushy women over there. It took me a long time to find sheep with just the right number of hairs.
The Nawab could only say,
Impossible! I cannot measure that thread or count those hairs. Still, you have lived up to your end of the bargain. Here's your reward, 1,000,000 rupees.
And Gopal lived in ease for some time. The end.
The end. His figures did not make sense at all. That's 8 carts. There's 2 carry the 1.
There was 15. I told you in the beginning he brought 15.
Yeah.
So 7 of the all the thread and the 7 bullocks was as long or wide as the earth is.
Yeah.
And the 8 making 15 is long.
Yeah. So basically all the Nawab wanted to know was whether he was bigger than the earth. So I think they found that out.
I'd be pissed. I wouldn't give him 1,000,000 rupees. I'd be like,
$1,000,000 rupees.
Shit? Where's your PowerPoint, motherfucker?
Yeah, I expected numbers. Story number 4. Brothers' Day, motherfuckers. From the region of Rajasthani? Western India?
Rahastani.
My enunciation and pronunciation.
It's a guess
Enunciation?
for me. It's a guess for me. I'm sorry. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm so sorry. So if I massacre these names, I am fucking sorry. All right. Once there was a brother whose sister was married and lived far away. He said to his mother...
But she wasn't married to her brother.
I know, right?
Mother, I want to go visit my sister on Brother's Day and see her dressed in new clothes. Many other men are going to see their sisters, and I want to go too.
The mother says, "My son, you are still a child, and your sister lives very far from here. How will you go? On the road, there are lions and wild animals.
Jesus.
They'll piss you fucking fearless. How will you go?" But he replied,
"No, Mama, I want to go."
The mother prepared a bundle with a long skirt and a wrap for her daughter, and a turban and a shirt for her daughter's husband. She gave the bundle to her son and said, "Go safely and seek your sister dressed in new clothes for Brother's Day." The youth started out, and on the way he met an enormous tree. The tree said, "Brother, I'm gonna fall on you." He said,
"Oh, don't fall now. I am on my way to see my sister, dressed in new clothes for Brother's Day. You may fall on me when I come back, please."
Continuing on his way, he met the river, which said, "I'm going to wash you away." He said,
"Oh, Brother River, don't wash me away now. I'm going to see my sister dressed in these new clothes for the Brother's Day. After I've done that, I'll return, and then you may wash me away. Bye."
Next, he met a jazz snake. The snake The snake said, "I'm going to bite you." He said,
"Oh, don't bite me now, little snake. I'm on my way to see my sister dressed in these new clothes for the Brother's Day. After I've done that, I'll return by, and then you can bite me."
Then he met a lion, and it said, "Brr, I'm going to eat you." And he said to the lion,
"Oh no, Mr. Lion, don't eat me now. I'm going to my sister's to see her dressed in the new clothes on the Brother's Day. Then I will return and you can eat me after the snake takes a bite."
You like that shit? India's thing is 5.
Oh.
Does that give you any idea?
Yeah. 5.
Sorry, I was pointing out that most regions have a number.
They do. Number. 3, 5, or 7.
Yeah, sometimes they're 9s.
9s, yeah. It's usually odd.
Yeah, Hungarians, I think, do 9s.
Yeah.
Everything revolves in 9s. It's interesting. Anyway, at last he came to his sister's village, and there he found, at last, At fucking last, he came to his sister's village
Fucking
and
laugh.
found his sister sitting at the spinning wheel. Their eyes met, but she did not get up because just then her thread broke. It is believed
It is
that if you
believed.
greet a guest when your thread is broken, harm will come to that guest.
What thread is broken?
Because you used to spin thread.
Oh,
with
she's
you.
spinning thread. Okay, I didn't catch that point. I was like, she tore her jeans? Or
When you're
her
spinning
threads
thread
were
and
broken.
your thread breaks right when a guest comes in, harm will, if you greet them.
Oh.
But the brother did not know why she did not get up to greet him at once, and he thought to himself,
Oh, I've come so far to meet my sister, but she, my very own sister, doesn't even speak to me. Oh.
he quickly turned to leave, but she joined her thread in a hurry and said,
Oh, brother, where are you going? I was only protecting you. I couldn't greet you with a broken thread.
the brother and sister, I mean, maybe they're twins and they're identical voice.
Ah, Hansel and Gretel. Yeah.
The brother and sister joyfully greeted one another, and she went hurrying to the neighbor woman's house. She says. Sister
Oh,
says.
neighbor lady, my brother has come and bought me gifts of cloth for Brother's Day. What should I do?
The neighbor was not a kind woman. She said, "You slut, plaster the courtyard with oil and put butter on the fire to boil."
What does that even mean?
So the sister quickly filled a big pot up with butter and put it on the fire to boil and began to spread oil around the courtyard. But the butter didn't boil and the oil didn't dry. So she hurried to the other neighbor.
It's the term. Oh, go jump off a log.
It gets
Why is
better.
she jumping off a log?
It gets better. So she hurried to the other neighbor and said,
Oh, Auntie, my brother has come to give me clothes for Brother's Day. I asked the other auntie what to do, and she said to plaster the courtyard with oil and to put butter on the fire to boil. But the oil won't dry and the butter won't boil.
the neighbor woman was kind and said, "I'll tell you what to do.
Go fuck yourself.
You take yellow clay and cow dung and plaster the courtyard with these. Then you put rice in the water to cook. And when it's cooked, you serve it to your brother with butter and lots of sugar."
Sweet
So she came
butter
back-
rice.
So she came back to her house, plastered the courtyard with yellow clay and cow dung, cooked the rice in the water, and then put lots of butter and sugar on it. And then she fed it to her brother, Sugar Rice.
Sugar rice.
1 day passed, and then 2, and then 4, and then the brother said,
Sister, I will go now. Good to see you. Bye.
when she heard that, she thought,
Ooh, I will make round cakes for my brother. I will shape them and send them home with him, and my father and mother can eat some of them, and my brother will have them to eat on the road. I won't pack the ordinary bread. I'll pack the nice round cakes.
"Big summer blow."
Big summer blowout.
Next day, she got up in the middle of the night and began to grind some wheat. She had just begun to grind when a black snake fell into the flour grinder. The snake got ground up and she didn't know it because it was night and very dark. So she made all the flour into round cakes and packed them in cloth. At dawn, she bade farewell to her brother and she gave him a bundle of cakes and said,
Go, brother. Go safely now.
she had kept a few cakes, only 2 or 3 for her children. And after her brother had left, the children began to
Snake
pester
eyes.
her, saying, "Hey, Mom, you gave him something all wrapped up. Now give us some too. We're gonna pee on you."
I piss on you.
She said,
I gave the cakes to your uncle. Sorry.
but her children didn't believe her words and would not stop pestering her for the sweets. So she took the 2 cakes and broke them in half, and 1 half for each of the 4 children. She just begun to hand them out when she saw the black snake bones were scattered throughout the cake.
Oh, no.
They were sticking out.
How did I not notice this when I was baking or forming
know,
them in
right?
my hands?
She cried out,
Oh, no. Exactly what I. Oh no! At this very moment, my brother may be eating this and dying.
So she ran to the kind neighbor woman and pleaded,
Auntie, please watch my house and take care of my children and maybe do my dishes. This very moment, my brother may be eating these snaky cakes and dying out on the road.
Snaky cakes.
Snaky cakes are delicious, but they are deadly.
The neighbor woman agreed, and the sister went running after her brother through the jungle. 24 miles this way and 24 miles that way.
Damn!
She ran through 48 miles of jungle, and then she called out,
Oh, brother, stand still. Stop. It's lucky for you I am an Olympic runner.
At last she came near. The brother heard his sister coming, and he recognized her voice and thought,
Oh, why has my sister come running after me? I have taken nothing of hers. Why is she calling me?
When he saw her, the sister said,
Brother, you've not eaten the food. You've not eaten it, have you? You've not eaten the snaky cakes?
He said,
See, sister, this is the way you wrap the round cakes. You wrap the round cakes and they're still wrapped. The same way. I haven't touched them. They're still in my bag.
She cried.
Oh, my brother. A black snake's bones are ground up in them, so when I broke one, they were sticking out and all through the cookies, and I did not notice when I formed them with my hands.
He threw down the packet of cakes and went back with his sister to her house.
I throw down these cakes!
The sister kept him with her for nearly a week. Then her brother said to her,
How much can you protect me? As soon as I left your village, I met an enormous tree which said, I will fall on you. And after that, I met a river which said, I will wash you away. Then I met a snake and it said, Hess. But it was very jazzy. Yeah, very jazzy. It said it will bite me. And then I saw a lion and it said, I will eat you too. And I was like, how are you going to eat me when the snake already said he bite me? How can you protect me, sister?
His sister took her necklace to give to the river. She took her cup of milk for the snake and a goat kid to feed the lion. She took 5 toy...
a baby, goat kid. For some reason, I just pictured like
her child.
Yeah, or like
Take this as an offering. I have too many girls.
A fawn? One of those characters. It's just a half goat, half kid. Come with me, child. Let me lead your goat legs into the woods.
And then she took 5 toy pebbles to please the enormous tree. And then she ran to her neighbor and said once more,
Oh, Auntie, please watch my house again and look after my children. I'll accompany my brother back to my parents' home, and then I shall return.
Then the brother and sister went into the dangerous jungle together. The sister saved her brother from the lion, the snake, the river, and the tree by offering things that she had brought for them. After they had walked for a long time, she became thirsty. Her brother said,
Sister, I'll climb that tree over there and look around whichever way I see the herons circling in the air. Below them we will find the water.
So he climbed a tree and did see some herons circling over a place at some distance in the woods. He cried down,
Oh, sister, there is surely some water over there. The herons don't circle unless there is water below. You wait for me in the shade and I'll go bring back some water.
While he was gone, the sister saw Mother Fate wandering in the forest. She heard her saying to herself, I'm making a cover for the heart of the only son.
Yeah, that's my fucking jam.
The sister called out to her,
Old woman, mother, what are you doing?
She answered, I'm making a cover for the heart of the only son. At once, the sister understood that this meant her brother was going to die. I don't know how she figured that out.
Oh, it's very cryptic, but I think I get what you're saying.
She pleaded to Mother Fate.
Oh, it's a very catchy song. What can I do, Mother?
Mother Fate told her, After Holi and after Diwali on Brother's Day, tell the story and worship your brother. Worship him, but on Brother's Day, curse him. By the curses, your brother will be saved.
Oh, very strange. You're a very strange woman. Nice to meet you. Would you like some snaky cakey?
Somehow sister fucking knows everything, but right then and there the sister began to curse her brother, saying,
Oh, may my brother's bones be gathered. May my brother die.
She did not even stop when her brother came back. He was shocked to hear her cursing him and thought,
What will happen now, I wonder?
They continued on their way and reached their home. There, they found arrangements were made underway for her brother's wedding. The sister said,
You're fixing his engagement. Fix mine also.
This was a crazy thing to say, as she was already married. The brother said,
Oh, my sister used to be good and smart. What's happening to her now, I wonder?
It was time for the pre-wedding ceremony, and the groom was seated on a special stool. His sister said,
Why is he sitting there all by himself? Let me sit there also.
The others thought this weird, but the brother said,
Do her alone, okay? Leave her as she asks. Let her also sit on the wooden stool. It's a very comfortable stool.
I think I got those two words switched.
No, I switched them.
When the groom was rubbed with oil and turmeric to make him fair and handsome, the sister cried,
Ooh, rub it on me also. I want the turmeric oils all over my body. It's like I put my lawn the oils.
The brother said,
Oh, she has gone crazy. Let her be.
When he was called to eat special meals at the home of his friends and relatives, she said,
Oh, I will go too.
and thus she did everything that the brother did. When it was time for the groom's departure from the village on horseback, grooms must go to the bride's village for the wedding ritual this way. She insisted on riding the horse with him, and he said,
Oh, let her be. Let her sit up here on the horse with me.
When the brother was going to strike the wooden marriage emblem over the bride's doorway with his sword, his sister said,
Oh, hashtag me too.
and when he sat on his bride to
It's a marriage custom.
when he sat with his bride to worship the gods, she sat with him, and the brother said,
No, she's gone crazy. She must do whatever I do now.
when it was time for the couple to take their marriage rounds around the sacred fire, completing the ritual, she also took them. And when the wedding party resumed to the groom's home with the new bride, the sister went too. Then, when the bride and groom were going inside to sleep, the sister said,
Oh, I will sleep near them, so maybe I hear the boning later.
The brother said,
Okay, let her sleep here. She is my weird sister.
So they stretched a curtain between the bridal bed and the side of the room where the sister slept on the floor. The new husband and wife fell asleep, but in the middle of the night, the snake came near, slithering towards the sleeping couple. How could the sister sleep when she was waiting for her brother's enemy? She spotted the snake, struck it, and then stuck it into 3 pieces and hid the pieces under a shield. And then she went to sleep in peace. The next morning, when the others woke, she was still asleep. The brother said,
Oh, my sister is still asleep. I'll say farewell to my guest now. She is crazy, and who knows what she will do when she wakes up. So farewell, guests.
But his mother protested it, saying to her son, No, she's not crazy. It's not like her to sleep like this. From her birth, she has been a light sleeper. Wake her up now while your guest is still here, or else you'll have to call them back. They woke her, and the sister said,
Oh, gather the whole neighborhood, village. Let everybody know why I left my children at home with my neighbor.
I thought she had a Swedish accent.
She did, and it just failed on me for a second. Oh, how I followed my brother, leaving home and my family, all because of my brother's enemy, that snake who came here on his wedding night. Wedding snake.
The snake cakes.
He eats my snake cakes.
She lifted the shield and showed everyone the snake, which she had cut into 3 pieces. Then she explained everything.
Oh, brother, when we were in the jungle, I met the mother Fate, and she said, I am making a cover for the heart of the only son, and told me to worship brother on my brother's day. It was very confusing, but I still did it anyway. I figured it out.
Yeah.
Brothers should give long skirts and wraps to their sisters, and sisters should curse their brothers. May my brother's bones be gathered. May my brother die. All that good stuff.
May he live long. The end.
Oh, plot twist. Yeah.
Shit. That was a weird story.
That was a
right?
weird story. It's
about to get
Hansel
weirder.
and Gretel prequel. Story number 5 is called Untold Stories. Unsolved Mysteries? Untold Stories.
I know, right? I got that one too.
The region is Gandhi, central India.
Yep. A Gond peasant kept a farmhand who worked for him in the fields. One day, they went together to a distant village to visit the Gond's son and his wife. On the way, they stopped at a little hut by the roadside, and after they had eaten their supper, the farmhand said,
Tell me a story.
But the Gond was tired and went to sleep. His servant lay awake, and he knew that his master had 4 stories which he was too lazy to tell. When the Gond was fast asleep, the stories came out of his belly and sat on his body, and they began to talk to each other. They were angry. They said,
Your note here, a tapeworm recorder. This Gond knows us very well from childhood, but he will never tell anyone about us. Why should we go on living uselessly in this belly? Let's kill him and go live with someone else.
The farmhand pretended to be asleep, but he listened carefully to everything they said. The first story said, When the Gond reaches his son's house and sits down to eat supper, I'll turn his first mouthful of food into sharp needles, and when he swallows them, they'll kill him. The second story says, If he escapes that, I'll become a great tree by the roadside and fall on him as he passes by and kill him that way. The third story said, Well, if that doesn't work, I'll be a snake and run up his leg and bite him. The fourth story said,
Is that me?
Yeah.
Oh. If that doesn't work, I'll bring a great wave of water as he is crossing the river and wash him away. Then we'll all go live in that lady who shits out woes.
The next morning, the Gond and his servant reached his son's house. His son and daughter-in-law welcomed him and prepared food and set it before him. But as the Gond raised his first mouthfuls to his lips, his servant knocked it out of his hand, saying,
There's an insect in the food.
When he looked, he saw that all of his rice had been turned into needles. The next day, the Gond and his servant set out on their return journey. There was a great tree leaning across the road, and the servant said,
Quick, let's run past that tree.
As they ran past it, the tree fell with a mighty crash, and they just escaped. A little later, they saw a snake by the road, and the servant quickly killed it with his stick.
Ta-ta.
After that, it went no sneaky jazz snake. After that, they came to a river, and as they were crossing, a great wave came rushing down. But the servant dragged the Gond to safety. They sat down on the banks to rest, and the Gond said,
You have saved my life 4 times. You know something I do not. How did you know this was going to happen?
The farmhand said,
If I tell you, I think I'll turn to stone.
The Gond said,
How can a man turn to stone? Come on, tell me, you son of a bitch.
So the servant said,
Very well, I'll tell you. But when I turn to stone, you take your daughter-in-law's child, throw it against me, and I'll become a man.
Blood sacrifice.
It just requires just a tiny blood sacrifice is all it's going to require.
From your infant child.
From that infant child.
So the servant told a story and was turned into stone, but Gond left him there and went home. After some time, his daughter-in-law heard about it, and she went there by herself with the one child she fucking hated and threw it against the stone. And the servant came back to life again. But the Gond refused to have him in his house and dismissed him. That's why few people in this region trust a Gond. They even have a saying, no one can rely on a Gond, a woman, or a dream.
Ain't no one can rely on a Gond, a woman, or a dream. Damn it.
That's their thing.
That's true. Can't trust them. They'll refuse to throw their babies at you, even if their kid's an asshole.
They took the asshole one there.
Yeah. Oh, I love how they just they made it okay in that way. Like she took her child.
A blood sacrifice.
Her least favorite child, the one that was kind of a dick. He was annoying.
Just says she took a child.
Yeah. She picked her least favorite.
She took her youngest.
The other 4 got ice cream, so it balances.
Right?
Yeah.
One last mouth.
Yeah.
She's got 16 others. It's fine.
Yeah, she gets 16.
At this point, they just pop out.
Story number 6. Bopaluki. Bop. Oluki.
Bopalucci.
Bopalucci.
From?
Oh, from Punjabi.
Hey. Where's that at?
North.
A number of young girls were drawing water at the village well and telling each other their fantasies of when and whom and how they would marry. One of them said, my uncle will come loaded with wedding presents and dresses and me in a brocade, and I'll get married in a palace. Another said, my uncle is coming with a camel load of sweets. The third said, oh, my uncle will be here in no time. In a golden carriage filled with jewels. Sorry. Bopalucci was the prettiest of them all, and she looked sad. She was an orphan and had no one that would arrange a marriage for her or give her a dowry. Still, not to be outdone by the others, she said,
and my uncle will bring me dresses, sweets, and jewelry, golden plates. He won't even look at me weird.
8 years old. A robber, disguised as a peddler selling perfumes to country women, happened to be sitting near the well. He heard what Bopalucci said, and he was so struck by her beauty and spirit that he decided to marry her himself. So the very next day, he disguised himself as a rich farmer and came to Bopalucci's hut with trays full of silken dress sweets and rare jewels, things he had looted and put away. Bopalucci could hardly believe her eyes, for it was just as she had fantasized. The robber even said that he was her uncle, her father's long-lost brother, and had come to arrange his niece's wedding with one of his sons. Bopalucci could not believe her ears, but she believed him and was ecstatic. She packed up her few belongings and set off with the robber. But as they walked along the road, a crow in a tree croaked. Bopalucci, beware! Smell the danger in the air! It's no uncle that relieves you, but a robber who deceives you.
It was a very odd crow. It was very specific.
Bopalucci says,
Uncle, that crow croaks in a funny way. What did it say?
The robber said,
Nothing at all, see? All the crows in this country croak like that.
A little further on, they met a peacock, which as soon as it caught sight of the pretty girl, began to scream, Bopalucci, beware! Smell the danger in the air! It's no uncle that relieves you, but a robber who deceives you.
If you've ever heard a peacock scream, too, it does sound like a human getting murdered, so that would be very terrifying. For it to scream that whole... There's 5 minutes of peacock just death screaming at you. You're like, oh my God.
I think that's what it was. Okay. So the girl said,
Uncle, that peacock screams in a funny way. What did it say?
The robber says,
Nothing, see? Nothing. All the peacocks scream like that in this country.
The jackal slunk across the road and began to howl, Bopalucci, beware! Smell the danger in the air! It's no uncle that relieves you, but a robber who deceives you. The Bo Pelucci says,
Uncle, that jackal, how they looked at me in a funny way. What did it say?
The robber says,
Nothing, goddammit, nothing. Now all the jackals howl like that in this country.
So Bo Pelucci traveled with him for many miles until they reached the robber's house. Once they were inside, he locked the door and told her who he was and how he wanted to marry her himself. She wept and wailed, but the pitiless robber left her with his ancient crone of a mother and went out to make arrangements for the marriage feast. Now Bo Pelucci had long, beautiful hair that reached down to her ankles, but her mother of the robber, who was so old she didn't have any hair left on her head. The old hag says to the bridal, as she was getting the bridal clothes ready, she says, Daughter, how did you manage to get such beautiful hair? Bo Pelucci says,
Well, my mother had a way of making it grow. She'd pound my head into the big mortar for husking rice. At every stroke of the pestle, my hair grew longer and longer. It's a method that never fails.
The old woman, who has always wanted long hair and never had very much, says, Maybe it will work for me too, and make my hair grow. Bo Pelucci says,
Maybe it will work. Why don't we try it?
So the old woman put her head in the motor, and Bo Pelucci pounded away with such force that the old woman died.
That's my third murder. You thought I was a good guy.
Then Bo Pelucci dressed the dead body in the scarlet bridal dress and seated her on the bridal chair, drew the veil over its face, and put the spinning wheel in front of it, so that when the robber came home, he might think it was his bride. Then she put the old woman's clothes on and picked up her few belongings and stepped out of the house as quickly as possible.
The whole time you're thinking what a monster the murderer, the robber is. And then all of a sudden at this point you realize, like, oh my God, Bo Pelucci was the monster the whole time. I would like to go back to the beginning of the story. Where are her parents? Yeah, they both tragically disappeared.
On her way home, the robber saw her hurrying by. He had stolen a millstone to grind the grain for the feast. She was scared he would recognize her, but he didn't. He thought she was some old woman hobbling along. So Bo Pelucci reached home safely. When the robber came home and saw the figure in his bridal dress sitting in the bridal chair spinning, he thought it was Bo Pelucci. He called her to help him with the millstone, but she didn't answer. He called again, but she still didn't answer. And after calling a few more times, he flew into a rage and threw the millstone at her head. The figure toppled over, and when he came close, it wasn't Bo Pelucci at all, but his own mother, with her head bashed in. The robber wept and cried aloud and beat his breast because he thought he had killed his own mother. Thank you, Tarzan. Soon it became clear to him that Bo Pelucci was no longer around and had ran away. He was wild with rage and ran out to bring her back wherever she was. When she reached home, Bo Pelucci knew that the robber would certainly come after her. Every night she begged the neighbors to let her sleep in a different house, leaving her own little bed in her own little house empty. But she couldn't do this forever, as she soon came to the end of her friends who would let her sleep in their houses. So she decided to brave it out and sleep in her own bed with a sharp billhook next to her. And sure enough, in the middle of the night, 4 men crept in, and each seizing a leg of the bed, lifted it up and walked off. The robber himself holding onto the leg close behind her head. Bo Pelucci was wide awake, but she pretended to be fast asleep until they had come to a deserted spot and the thieves were all off guard. When she whipped out the billhook and used it in a flash to cut off the heads of the 2 thieves by the foot of the bed. Turning around quickly, she cut off the head of the 3rd thief. But the robber himself ran away in fright and scrambled up a nearby tree like a wildcat before she could get to him. Bo Pelucci cried out to him, brandishing her billhook.
Come down if you are a man and fight it out. You'll be my 10th victim.
But the robber would not come down. So Bo Pelucci gathered all the sticks that she could find and piled them under the tree, and then set fire to them. The tree caught fire, and the robber, stifled by the smoke, tried to jump down but broke his neck. After that, Bo Pelucci went to the robber's house and carried off with all the gold and silver and jewels and clothes that were hidden there. And she had them brought home to her village in a silver and golden platters on camels and donkeys. Donkey. And she was now rich and she could marry anyone she fucking pleased. The end.
You mean she could recruit any victim she pleased?
She starts the fucking Black Widow.
Yeah. 13 dead husbands later, they started to realize it might be Bo Pelucci.
Or she just fucking oils the stairs too much.
What happened to that guy? He fell down. Why does it look like he was stabbed? He fell down on my knife 37 times.
He just kept slipping over the oil.
Why does it look like you dressed him up and put him in a rocking chair in the corner for hours after he was dead? I wanted someone to talk to.
Wow, we got a serious murderer.
Oh, Bo Pelucci.
She's crazy.
Yeah.
Watch out for that one.
Moving on, the Jasmine Prince. The Jazz Prince.
Jasmine.
Jazz.
I mean, sure.
Oh, from Tamil.
Thank you. There was once a king who was called the Jasmine Prince because the scent of jasmines would waft from him for miles.
Wafting jasmine.
Whenever he laughed. But for that to happen, he had to laugh naturally, all by himself. If someone else tickled him or forced him to laugh, there would be no scent of jasmines. The Jasmine Prince ruled a small kingdom and paid tribute to the greater kings than himself, who had heard of his extraordinary power to produce the scent of jasmines by merely laughing. The great king wanted to see how it happened and to experience it himself. So he invited the Jasmine Prince to his court and asked him to laugh, but the prince could not laugh on order. He tried and tried, but he just couldn't bring himself to laugh. Nothing you can do, bro. Get this motherfucker some weed. The great king was furious. He said,
He is defying orders. He's trying to insult us over here.
And he clapped him in jail until he produced some laughter. Right in front of the prison house lived a cripple in a hut. The queen of the realm had fallen in love with this cripple and would visit him at night from his window. The Jasmine Prince watched her come and go. He thought,
but that's not my business.
And behaved as if he had seen nothing. One night, the queen was late, and the cripple was furious when she arrived at last that he beat her up. He pounded her with his arm stumps and kicked her with his lame leg. The queen patiently endured all this battering and didn't say a thing.
So cute.
She took out the royal dishes that she had brought for him and lovingly served him. And after a while, the cripple regretted his brutal treatment of the queen and asked softly,
Aren't you angry that I beat you up?
She replied,
Oh no, honey, that was delightful. It was pretty fucking hilarious watching you crippled ass just squirm around there on the ground. Just daintily hitting me with those little stumps. I think a couple times you didn't even really hit me. It was just kind of a phantom arm situation. As if I had seen all 14 worlds at once.
Now, right next to the veranda, they were talking.
Veranda.
They were talking to each other. A poor washerman was cowering in the corner in the cold. He had lost his donkey, and he was in search of it for 4 or 5 days. He had despaired of ever finding the animal.
The donkeys!
But when he heard that the queen say what she did, he thought, Oh, this lady has seen all 14 worlds. Surely she will have seen my donkey somewhere. So he called out to the lady, Hey lady, did you see my donkeys anywhere?
The donkeys!
Teresa, the donkeys. At this, the Jasmine Prince, who had been listening from his window, could not keep from laughing. He let out a peal after peal of laughter into the night, and at once the air for miles around was filled with the fragrance of jasmines. The dawn was still some hours away, but prison guards ran to the great king and told him of the laughter and the burst of fragrance. Without even waiting for dawn, the king had the Jasmine Prince brought to his palace and said to him,
When I asked you to laugh at me the other day, you couldn't. But now, what on earth made you laugh, and in the middle of the night nonetheless?
The prince tried hard to hold back the reason for his laughter, but the king insisted. So the prince told him the truth, and when the king had heard of everything, he issued 2 orders. One was to send the Jasmine Prince back to his capital with all due honors, and the other was to throw the queen at once into the lime kiln.
Jesus.
Burn, bitch, burn.
Yeah. First thing in order, get my friend here a trip home and send him with all the finery. Second one, burn that bitch of an ex-wife of mine. Oh, kings.
I know, right?
Story number 8. And moving on, right?
Yes.
That's it, yep. Story number 8, the final countdown, final story.
This one's actually got gods in it, guys.
The Brahmin who swallowed a god semen. Not just swallowed a god. From Bengali.
Vidatha, the god who writes his or her fortune for everyone's forehead at birth, had doomed a poor Brahmin to a particular fate. This Brahmin was fated to never eat to his heart's content. When he had eaten half of his rice, something or other always occurred to interrupt him, so he could never eat any more. One day he received an invitation to the Raja's house. He was delighted and said to his wife,
Half my rice is all I can ever eat. Never once in my entire life has my hunger been satisfied. Today, by some good luck, I received an invitation to the Raja's house to go see Roger. Roger. But how am I to go? My clothes are torn and dirty, and if I go like this, most likely the gatekeeper will just turn me away.
His wife said,
I'll repair and clean your clothes, then you can go.
And when she had provided him with the decent clothes, he set out for the Raja's home. There, though he was late and it was evening, he was royally received. As he reviewed the dishes spread out before him, the old Brahmin was delighted. He thought,
Whatever happens today, I'm going to eat my fucking fill, that's for sure.
He then sat down and began eating. Now it happened that a little earthen pot was hanging from a beam of the roof. Just as the Brahmin had finished half of his dinner, the pot broke and the pieces fell into his food. He immediately stopped eating and took his ritual sip of water and closed the meal. Got up, washed his hands and mouth, and went to the Raja. The Raja welcomed him respectfully and asked,
Thakur, are you fully satisfied?
The Brahmin answered,
Well, Roger, let me tell you the thing. Your servants are very nice. They're all good and fine and all that shit. But it's my own fate. My own fate. Well, I can't eat my fill.
The Raja asks,
Why? What has happened?
The Brahmin says,
Well, Roger, let me tell you about it. While I was eating, a little earthen pot fell from the ceiling and it spoiled all my rice.
The Raja was very angry when he heard this and gave his servants a scolding. And then he said to the Brahmin,
Sir, you are aware my name is not Roger, right? Raja is my job title. You will stay with me tonight. Tomorrow I will have fresh food made and serve it to you with my own hands. You will eat it out of my palm like my little horsey friend.
So the Brahmin stayed at the Raja's house that night. The next day, the Raja supervised the cooking himself and even prepared some of the dishes with his own hands and served the Brahmin. In a great room where he was served, there was nothing that could spoil the meal. The Brahmin looked around and rejoiced at the Raja's hospitality and then sat down to eat. But when he was halfway through his dinner, Vidatha the god, saw that he must be stopped. And yet he could not see of any way of doing it. So he himself took the form of a golden frog and came to the edge of the Brahmin's plantain leaf and tumbled into his food. The Brahmin was too busy to notice anything, and he ate up his rice, frog and all. Dinner
Son of a bitch.
over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm from the south. I crushed frog legs, motherfucker. Yeah.
Dinner over, the Raja asked,
How is it now, Thakur? Were you satisfied today?
The Brahmin answered,
Now listen here, Roger. I've never dined so well in my entire life.
Saying this, he took his leave, received gifts of money from the good Raja, and set off for home. That evening, on his way home, while he was walking through a jungle, he suddenly heard a voice.
Brahmin, let me go. Brahmin, let me go.
The Brahmin looked all around him, but he could see nobody. Again he heard the voice.
Brahmin, let me go.
Then he said,
Now, who the hell are you? Who's fucking with Roger? Is that you, Roger?
The answer came,
I'm Badaltha.
The Brahmin asked again.
Where are you?
Badatha answered.
Inside your stomach. You've swallowed me?
The Brahmin said.
Impossible.
Badatha says. Badatha says.
Yep. Yes, in the form of a frog. Ribbit, I tumbled into your food and you ate me.
The Brahmin replies.
Nothing could have been better. Nothing could be better. You bother me all my goddamn life, you rascal. I won't let you go. I'd rather close up my throat.
Badatha, in great fear, said again.
Brahmin, let me go. I'm stifled in here. Plus, I won't come out of your mouth. I'll come out of somewhere else.
Oh, he won't. But the Brahmin hurried home quickly, and when he arrived, he said to his wife,
Hey, wife, grab my hookah and hold the stick ready in your hands.
His wife did so at once, and the Brahmin sat down and smoked the hookah for a long time contentedly, taking great care not to set Badatha free. The god was further stifled by the smoke, but the Brahmin quite ignored all of his cries for help.
He's just getting baked inside of it. I need to get out of here.
I gotta do shit.
Yeah. I'm like, God damn it.
Meanwhile, there was a terrible commotion in the three worlds, and without Badatha to regulate matters, the universe was on the verge of a collapse. The gods assembled in council and decided that one of them must be sent to the Brahmin. But who? They all agreed that the goddess Lakshmi should be the right one to go. She said, I'll go to that Brahmin, but I'll never come back.
Damn.
But they all prayed and begged, so she agreed and went to the Brahmin's house. When the Brahmin learned that it was Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and fortune, at his door, he put his upper cloth round his neck as a mark of respect, gave her a seat, and asked her what in the same name of wonder had brought her to a poor man's house.
What in the same name of wonder? I'm going to start using that. What in the same name of wonder is that?
The goddess says, Thakur, you taken Badatha as prisoner. You must let him go or the universe will be ruined. The Brahmin says to his wife,
Give me that goddamn stick. I'll show you what I think of the goddess of good fortune. From the day I was born, she has shunned me. Shunned, I say. I've had nothing but bad luck. And here she comes to my house, this Lakshmi.
When she heard this, the goddess vanished, trembling with fear.
He's got a stick.
No one had ever talked to her like that before in all the ages. She told the gods what had happened, and after another huddle, the gods sent Saraswati, the goddess of learning. When Saraswati reached his house and called out, Brahmin, are you in there? Brahmin, psst, psst, are you in there?
Psst.
The Brahmin saluted her with great respect and said,
Mother, great goddess, what do you want in a poor man's house?
Thakur, the universe is fast coming apart. Let Badatha go. The Brahmin burst into a great rage and cried,
Oh, really, huh? Wife, give me the goddamn stick. I'm going to teach this goddess a learning a lesson. She didn't give me even the first letters of the fucking alphabet. Swarty. Come to my house now, does she? Where's my beating stick?
Hearing this, the goddess got up in a hurry and fled, stumbling.
I like this. All these great and powerful gods, and what are they afraid of? A redneck with a stick.
I know.
Give me my switch.
You ain't got a fucking gun, dude. Finally, the great god Siva himself undertook the mission. Now the Brahmin was a Siva, a devout worshiper, a devout worshiper of Siva, so devout that he would not even touch water without doing puja to Siva. Therefore, as soon as the god came, he and his wife gave him water and washed his feet, offered him bell leaves, holy grass, flowers, rice, and saddlewood, and did puja to him. Siva then sat down and said to the Brahmin,
Brahmin, let me that go.
The Brahmin said,
Well, since you come down here all personably and whatnot, oh great Siva, of course, I must let him go. But what am I to do? I have suffered hardships from the day I was born, thanks to Badatha. He's the cause of it all.
Then the great god said,
Do not trouble yourself. I'll take you, body and soul, to heaven.
When he heard that, the Brahmin relaxed his throat and opened his mouth, and Badatha jumped out.
Badatha just put in he relaxed his throat, opened his mouth, cupped the balls, worked the shaft a little bit,
took one to the
took it right in the mouth. And that's how he swallowed a god.
Then Siva took the Brahmin and his wife with him to his special heaven. The end.
He just got down on his knees and just opened his throat up.
He just got down on his knees and
opened his throat, stuck out his tongue, and then he prayed real hard.
Yeah, it didn't used to be crackers that they put in your mouth.
He prayed until there was prayer residue just dripping from his chin.
Gross.
He was covered in prayer gunk.
That's disturbing. Then they brought an elephant in.
They
It got real weird.
Hope you folks enjoyed this. Yeah, 9 Indian folk tales from the Pantheon Fairy Tale and Folklore Library. Fairy Tales from India by Rami Anujan.
A.K. Ramananjan.
A.K.A.
No, just A.K.
A.K. That's the name. I thought it was... well, folks.
Ramanujan. Selection of great tales from 22 languages.
22. Hope you folks enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We just got some new source material, so we're gonna be fucking with some different stories. So
do some American West shit here.
From America. There's a bit of American. That'll be the one story where we don't use the redneck voices.
I know, right? They're all French and shit.
All French. Well, tell me this, Pecos Bill, if that is your name.
I'm French Canadian.
I am the Paul Bognon.
We smoke lot of weed.
Yeah, I'm Paul Bognon.
You got Spanish. Everything but the Texas voices.
Hey there, I'm John Henry.
We got a shit ton of new material coming in, actually.
Look for it coming at you in the future. Check out our merch store. Yep. High Mythology, teespring.com/high-mythology-merch. Yes. Check it out.
Yes.
See if there's anything you like. Buy it, wear it. Send us a picture of it.
teesprings.com/
high-mythology-merch.
There you go. Okay. I got you.
I got the .com wrong. teespring.com/high.com.
Just keep going and
just keep adding.
Just keep confusing everybody.
No,
It's okay. Listen to it from one of our other podcasts. You got it right then. We clearly smoked too much.
Clearly, we are too high to carry on.
Yes.
Have a good night, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.